welcome to the Veloforte podcast. And to kick things off today, we have quite the runner, quite the Veloforte addict, let's say. And welcome to entrepreneur, sports agent, advertising agency founder, of course runner, marathon discipler, finisher, Mr. Simon Dent. How are you?
Very well, thank you for the kind introduction. I was
okay.
trying to think, is that really me? But I guess it sort of is me, yeah.
Simon, we're going to go right through your sort of running backstory today, your life. You'll understand a bit more about your nutrition, how you live your active life, how you fuel yourself every day, how you fuel these crazy endurance events that we'll get onto as well. But why not start off? We're going to give you a couple of quick fire questions, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
First off, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Good question. I think I'm incredibly passionate about personal development and personal growth, and I've just been quite blessed that the moment I wake up, I get up, and I very rarely get back to sleep. So my wife and son will tell you that I'm an early riser. I'm up at 5 a.m.
Okay. Every day?
Pretty much every day. I don't really lie in. I mean, I have to say I'm not then up all day, training and working. I will have a snooze if I need a snooze.
Yeah.
If I have a double session training, I'll definitely have 20 minutes kip in the afternoon. But yeah, once I'm up, I'm go, all systems go.
And when those eyes open, are you immediately onto what have I got to do today? What's the plan? How am I developing myself? How am I pushing myself?
Yeah, really interesting. For a long time now, the first thing I do when I wake up is to think of 10 things I'm grateful for. And every day I think about 10 different things. So I like to just flood my brain, my mind, my thoughts with positivity and gratitude. And I find that is such a great way to start the day. Obviously, when we all go to bed in the evening, our minds are quite cluttered. So I tend to do a process where it's a bit like journaling, really. I just jot down what's in my head to hope to clear the mind. And then, when I wake up, flood my mind with gratitude and then get up and go for it.
Great. Okay. We'll move on to a second question. What is one nutritional lesson that you wish you'd known sooner in life?
Oh, wow. So many. I mean, I'm fast approaching 48, so I'm a sort of child of the 70s and 80s when I guess the world was flooded with artificial foods, pastas, white breads, white rice. And I was very much brought up, and even up into my 20s and 30s, around pasta is really good for you. Lots of carbs are really good for you. And so, even in my early days of running, I would be probably eating way too many carbs, both just lunches, dinners, pastas, breads, baguettes, just, and I think that's something that even really in the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years, actually, that we don't have to consume so many carbohydrates, whether that's, carb loading is a thing. I mean, I will probably slightly increase the amount of carbohydrates I have, but that certainly won't be, big baguettes and breads and pastas and jacket potatoes. I think really understanding the blend of, I guess, fats, proteins and carbs and how we can use all effectively to fuel our running. Okay,
great. We'll come on to a bit more about those nutrition specifics later.
Yeah.
Final quickfire question. What is your favourite Veloforte product?
Good question. I'm a big fan of the bars. I have to say I eat them sort of pre-run, pre-race, during race, even post-race. But I actually brought my favourite with me. My favourite's Classico.
The Classico, going back to the classic.
It's the original, isn't it? It's the OG, I think.
It is the original.
I just love the hint of honey in that, and then the Bosco again, the
fruity flavours,
fruity, strawberry, and then when it comes to gels, I've tried them all, but I think it's because I'm a morning runner, and so I probably have a coffee before leaving home, but then usually an hour in, I'll go to probably one of the originals as well.
Okay,
Doppio.
great. Doppio. Yeah, there's a real cult following for Doppio, so
right.
It's interesting you're behind that as well. Great. Okay. Well, that's hopefully given the audience a bit of a flavour to you and your personality, what drives you. Let's now take a step back and talk a bit more about your running. What got you into running? Was it an early, young age thing? Was it a later in life thing? Where did running come into your life?
Very much a later in life thing. Obviously childhood, bit of running here and there, but nothing at all on the track or in school cross country, anything like that. And I really found running an adult life in 2014 when I don't even know how it came about, but I was offered a place in the London Marathon to run for a charity called the Chicken Shed Theatre Company.
Okay.
And yeah, I think probably I accepted that place in September of 2013, and then realised, like most people who get a London Marathon place for charity, have a huge panic and try and work out how on earth they're going to do it. So yeah, that was how it happened really. And I stumbled into various training programs, whether that's through Runner's World or online, and yeah, completed London in 2014 in a time of 4 hours 30, which I was incredibly proud of. I mean, I was broken, I was in bits for weeks afterwards, and that's really what set me on the journey. Even, I think, still very, very naive in my training and my diet and my nutrition. But then come September 2014, I found myself with a place for London Marathon in 2015 as well. So that was that really. That's how.
So the bug got you then? Or was it
No,
more
not
that
really.
I wanted another crack at it?
It was, again, getting a charity place again. But yeah, I wouldn't say I probably had the bug. I think I was at that stage in my life where I was starting to get on a bit. I can't remember how old it was. I could probably work it out. But I was probably, late 30s? Yeah, late 30s. Probably eating quite badly, bit overweight, a drinker, probably 2 or 3 nights a week. Just not really that impressed with my life, and sort of really trying to find something in life to grab hold of to try and, I guess, take my life in a different direction. And I think that running community showed me a different way. It didn't have to be sort of pubs, clubs, and that sort of lifestyle, fast food. And I think that's probably what got me into it. And 2015, completed London again, took 10 minutes of my time, and that was that. And I think after that, I strangely had a bit of a break from sort of cycle marathons. I did a couple of halves and 10Ks, but then it wasn't until 2017 that I found myself running the Belfast Marathon. Again, chipped another 10 minutes off, and then that's when things started to not get serious at all. But I started to think, right, if I'm going to give this a proper go, I need to start changing my lifestyle. And so, yeah, from 2018 onwards, I started sort of really manoeuvring through. I did my first ultra, which was Race to the King, which is a double marathon on the South Downs Way from Arundel.
It's a great race, that.
Yeah, Arundel to Winchester. Then did Manchester Marathon, and then obviously COVID came about 2019, but that's when I really started getting stuck into some serious training. We all got that sort of year of getting a lot of time back, so I used that to really understand more about my body, how the body works, nutrition. And then that's when I really started to sort of make gains. I ended up getting my marathon time down to 3:06, and then I broke sub 3 in 2022, so I went to 2:59. But in parallel to that, was running 10Ks quite quickly. I'd pretty much given up alcohol. We had in 2020, wow, we moved down to East Sussex from central London, so I was incredibly blessed to have the South Downs Way on my doorstep, which just unlocked trail running and ultra running. So that's when I really sort of started to, we'd have, and it was during sort of the pandemic as well, so didn't really have much to be home for, as in work, or didn't have an office to go to. So I was going out on Sunday morning runs and coming home 6 hours later and not seeing another human. So that's when the long distances started to sort of really tick up, and that's when started doing sort of 100k races. Did my first 100 miler, which was a a double loop around London with 4 friends fundraising for Greenhouse Sports, and that's that really. And then sort of found myself on the start line of Marathon des Sables last year.
I was going to say, there's so much in there I want to ask you about, but it's interesting. I think COVID was the catalyst for a lot of people to change their life and suddenly think, oh, I want to do these things, I want to do these events, I want to get into this. But it's interesting, it came more like 10 years ago when, let's be honest, there was no trigger, was there? So it's probably difficult to be changing your life, not drinking, not going out, not being as social, wanting to get up at 5 a.m. doing running, that type of thing. I guess that wasn't as topical in society, was it? Whereas now it's very popular to be healthy and to look after yourself.
I mean, it's a good point, but then often you don't know what you don't know. And I think for me, I started reading quite a lot, some quite inspirational biographies. I had spent the early part of my career as a sports agent, obviously surrounded by sporting excellence and athletic excellence. And unfortunately at the time, from say age 25 to 35, I hadn't really acknowledged how that could help me. You know, I was with some of the best footballers, rugby players, athletes in the world, and yet I was only really chatting to them about commercial matters, contracts, brand deals. But I was aware of the training they were doing and the discipline and the routine and the structure and the nutrition, but it just wasn't something I lent into. It definitely was having impact on me through osmosis. I was definitely picking up on some stuff. But yeah, I think that the advent of, I think as well though, being a guy, and you know, there's a lot of stuff we talk about in mental health and that's spoken about now. I mean, I'd had some personal experiences where I had a breakdown, and I'd been originally working as a lawyer, and I found myself with severe anxiety and depression, which led to a sort of period in a private hospital, which for me is very much tied to this, because I think that I was aware of what can happen if you don't look after yourself. And I think, as with all runners, I'm pretty sure that sort of natural hit of dopamine and other natural chemicals released when you're running really can help with that stuff. So I think in parallel to wanting to be a better version of myself, wanting to be a better husband, I got married in 2015, which again is really relevant to the story. Like, suddenly you want to be the best man, husband you can possibly be. We then had our first child, so you want to be the best dad you can possibly be. And then you sort of realise as well on a professional level that suddenly you get to 40, you've probably only got really 20 more years to go, actually, of building something that you can be proud of. So all these things are happening at once, really. And I think through a lot of good luck, good fortune, people I'd met, people I surrounded myself with, books I was reading, podcasts I was listening to, it all sort of was put in this big pot. And yeah, I can say the one common thread throughout this journey I've been on has been the discipline of my running.
Do you find it interesting from a psychological point of view how that life switch has happened, like how disciplined, how incredible that training load is for you now week to week versus what life was like? I guess it's just a development of age, a development of your mind, everything.
But also I think that it is amazing, and I regularly reflect and I regularly try and give myself credit for it. But actually, I think the reason now I'm getting so many gains, and I can do MDS, I can hopefully do Dragons Back later this year, I can do 100 miles, is that my body didn't get hammering at all. The only thing it got hammering was probably booze in the 20s and 30s. Like, so I know a lot of professional athletes or even amateur athletes or runners who've been running all their lives and now their knees are knackered and they've got that injury. Touch wood, I've never really had an injury because this is all new to me. So I'm getting all the sort of newbie gains now, and obviously they're going to stop eventually. But I think what I'm ticking off are what most runners tick off in their 20s and 30s. So I'm sort of getting it now, which has worked out really well for me. And also, I never get FOMO. Like, I feel like I gave it a really good knot being that guy in my 20s and 30s, whereas now it's worked out very well that I've got a 7-month-old daughter, I've got a 6-year-old son. I don't think I would have been a very good dad in my 20s and 30s when I was spending so much time in pubs and bars. So it's worked out quite well for me, and I think it in no way was planned this way, but I'm really glad it has worked out this way.
Yeah. That is incredible, and I do think we should tell the audience actually that you are an ultra runner. You've done Marathon des Sables, one of the pinnacles of ultra running. You're going to be doing Dragon's Back later this year, a 380-kilometer race. So just touching on that family side of things, those are severe endurance races. They require you to take things seriously. It's not like a marathon where people can rock up on the start line and get through it. How do you balance that work, life, family, running part of your life? How do you keep all of that in ticking along?
Yeah, I think that self-awareness is really important. I think that I'm lucky that I can work from home a lot of the week. I'm probably in London 2 days a week. The rest of the time I'm in Sussex. As I said earlier, I'm quite lucky and blessed that I don't mind an early start. So a normal day for me would look like 5. I'm up. I'm usually out training by 5:30. I can get a 3-hour run in before the workday starts. I can then, obviously not on the days I'm doing the school run, but even if I'm doing the school run in the morning, I'll come back and then get out. So I have quite long days. Obviously my wife's incredibly understanding, but I can make sure that I'm still around in the evenings. And that's, I guess, just one of the pluses of what COVID gave us, was this sort of work from home sort of switch. But no, it does involve a lot of time planning. I'm quite lucky that I'm quite well organised and I can plan. Like, I know what, for the next 2 weeks, I already know what training looks like.
Do you have a training plan?
Yeah, so that's in my diary. I know what it, for the next 7 weeks, actually, I know what I'm doing. So I'm quite disciplined to stick to that. Obviously, there has to be a degree of flex, but something I did actually that Jamie Peacock, who's the ex-Great Britain Rugby League captain, a good mate of mine, introduced me to, was sort of almost like a life scorecard. And basically, it's something I do each week where I just sort of score myself on a number of factors. So family, business, wider family, community, health, charity, friends, finances. There's sort of 10 categories where I score myself out of 10 on each, and it's a really good exercise because you can actually see each week over a period of time what needs to be sort of dialed back. If you haven't spent time with the family, and that's a 7. The following week I'll try and get up to a 9. So I do that every week. It takes 2 minutes to do, but it's actually a really good scorecard, and more often than not, that scorecard will reflect, if I haven't been doing much in the space of my fundraising, I'll notice that there's not been many donations. It's a really good gauge of sort of keeping me in check.
That's really interesting. I feel like there's so much stimulus now with social media of do this, do that, read this book, have this, but I feel like it's quite hard to actually stick to some of these things that keep you in check.
Yeah, but it's also sticking to them for a long period of time. And
what makes you do that every Sunday night then? What pushed that the effect of that will better your week the following week?
You have to measure things. Like, measurement is such a massive part of everything we do, and I think if you're not measuring things, how can you improve them? And that's whether that's business, life, everything, training. You need to. We've all got our Garmins, we're all recording on our Stravas. Like, we're doing that because ultimately we want to improve things. So going back to what I said at the beginning, I am the biggest metric for me of happiness in my life is growth and progress, and the only way you're going to do that is if you keep score.
Yeah, okay. And moving back to running then, road racing has become even more popular post-COVID. The applications for marathons are through the roof, but I guess a lot of people start in road racing because it's easy to get into it. What made that push over to trail running is even a thing? What was your awareness of trail running? What made you sort of start thinking MDS is a possibility?
Yeah, I think it very much sort of, I really lent into it when we moved out of London. I mean, before in London, I'd still do my long runs, and I'd go into Richmond Park and do 2 or 3 laps. So you could do a 21-mile run and not see a car, which I suppose was probably the gateway drug for me for trail running. Mm-hmm. And my wife's family are down in East Sussex, so we used to go and visit them. I'd spend a bit of time in the Downs. And yeah, I think it was probably that was the sort of the start of it. But then, as I said, moving down to East Sussex and the sort of South Downs National Park just really changed everything. And I think that being out in nature, I think the uninterrupted running, obviously in London, when running, there's a lot of hazards, there's a lot of cars, bikes, traffic lights, people, that it really reduces the opportunity to get into a flow state. Whereas, you know, for me, once a fortnight, if I can go out and say 7 or 8 runs in 2 or 3 weeks, at least in one of those, I'll hit a flow state where I'll lose 30 minutes or an hour of just complete, just what we're all searching for. And that for me is amazing. I think
Is that headphones in, headphones out?
Yeah, headphones. I'm a massive podcast fiend, you'll be pleased to hear. So I'm listening to 2 or 3 a run. My long run on Sundays, I probably get 4 or 5 podcasts to listen to. Occasionally listen to music. But another thing that's just I've really become aware of is just the wildlife and the nature. In the last year, I've seen some incredible things. 2 weeks ago, I saw a black panther, which has been unbelievable. I was running on my usual Tuesday morning run through a village called Southeast, and there was a huge black wildcat, which has
Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought? I got a video of
Sussex.
I've got a video of it. I've reported it, and there's been loads of other sightings. So just stuff like that. And I've seen a white hawk, which last year they'd never been seen in England before. Reported it to RSPCA. They were like, I've got amazing photos of it. Never been seen in the south of England. I see deer, badgers, just all sorts. So when you're out in that environment, just seeing these sort of things, it's a motivator in itself, to be honest, to just get up and just think, wow, what am I going to see today? And that has really helped my trail running. And again, the tying in sort of family trips with races has become a big thing. And I think seeing the world is such a great way to see the world. I totally appreciate that you can see the world if you're doing marathons, but I think when running marathons in big cities, you rarely have your head up, because you're either usually going for a time or trying not to trip up. Whereas whenever I do a trail race or ultra abroad, I'm never running for a time. And so actually I can take in the beauty of where you are.
Mm. And what inspired MDS then? Marathon des Sables, for people that don't know, is one of the scariest ultra races there is. It's in the Sahara Desert. What on earth made you think, okay, I'm going to do this?
I don't know. It's funny because I was actually trying to think of that the other day, the actual reason, but it was just the next thing. I think when you get into that community and you sort of do the 100k races, I've done some races in Switzerland, or a race in Switzerland, I've done it twice actually. Do 100 milers, and then the MDS, sort of, you start to hear about it, you do a bit of digging. It's a 6-day stage race across the Sahara Desert, which in itself, sounded epic. And then, it's funny though. I was going through my phone a couple of weeks ago, and I found a photo on my phone of the MDS route in 2016.
Oh wow!
Which really surprised me, but shows me that the seed was probably planted way back then.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember recalling that, or if I even knew the race existed. But I signed up for MDS, so I took part in MDS in April last year. I'd signed up pretty much a year before, so I knew that it's billed as the toughest ultra in the world, stage race in the world. So I wanted to give myself a year of planning, and I did that. And in that training block, you meet some amazing people. I met some people who became my tent mates, and 3 of the people I ran MDS with are running Dragons back with me as well.
Do you find the preparation side of things really important? When you sign up for something like that, I guess it has to take a mindset of, I want to be challenged, I want to do something which is extreme. Yeah. But how much of it is also, it sounds like the preparation, leaving yourself a year to get ready for that.
I love the preparation, and I love having the goal and the purpose. I think I'm very aware my personality is, without purpose, I can drift a bit, and I like to have purpose in every aspect of my life. And so having a big, lofty goal of an ultra, and one that I can wrap in a sort of fundraise to as well, is I just always need that in my life. And with MDS, there was so much to get right, especially being my first stage race. So just understanding everything from pack weight to you carrying your own food to there's no assistance. You sort of, the only thing they give you is the tent and water. The rest is you carry it all. So you have to. There's a lot to sort of trial and get right. So I love the process of it. And again, with reference to Dragon's Back, which I'm doing in September this year, it's a stage race, but it's very different because obviously you're in the Welsh mountains. It's not going to be 55 degrees. It might be, I doubt it. It probably will be a British warm summer, but then on the top of Snowdon, Pennyfan, it might well be hailing and gale force winds. So there's a bit more to think about. Thankfully for Dragon's Back, they provide us with our evening meal. So I'll be very much relying on Veloforte for the daytime snacking and race fueling. But MDS, we had to carry our own evening meals. So in that in itself was getting used to sort of freeze-dried food for, 12 meals was quite challenging.
Did you see, for those 6 days, did you see any life?
No.
Or was it just completely empty desert?
We ran through a few settlements of camels, I guess, shepherds, but yeah, not much wildlife. I saw one scorpion on the long day, which is the 90-kilometre day, when you just have this insane day. I was out on the course for 22 hours, but about 4 in the morning, I was lost in the sand dunes just on moonlight, and this enormous scorpion was sort of just leading the way for me, and I was following it, and it was quite surreal. But yeah, I saw a scorpion, that was it.
But to go from what you said earlier about the wildlife being a real inspiration to a desert where I imagine your eyes play tricks and you could just see the same thing over and over. Like, there must have been some dark moments along that. Like, can we tap into how you got through it across 6 days?
Yeah, there was not a lot. There's a bit of hallucinating. There's a lot of mirages, so it's quite tricky sometimes to gauge distances. So on a couple of days, the finish line you could see, but it was still miles away on the other side of dunes. So you could see it, but what your mind couldn't tell you is that actually there's 5 miles of sand dunes between you and it. So there was a lot of that, which is quite dangerous in the desert, especially when it's fueling and hydration. You shouldn't think, I can finish my last bit of water, and then you can really screw yourself. But no, it's a good point actually. The obviously I didn't train in desert. I trained on the South Downs. I trained on Camber Sands, which again didn't really replicate the Sahara. I did a week in Lanzarote, which almost replicates the Sahara. So yeah, it was a very alien terrain to run in. But I think what was quite interesting was that it really did allow the flow state to be activated, because you do get yourself into a bit of trance. Obviously, because we didn't have electricity, I wasn't able to listen to podcasts. So that was something that we could. I had a solar charger on my pack that gave me a bit of fuel for my I don't know what they're called now, nanos, the little old iPods.
iPod nanos, yeah.
So I had some playlists. So actually, I was getting in some really cool sort of music playlists and losing myself for a few hours. So that was quite cool. That was quite nice. But yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges, right, of MDS is running on sand. And a lot of it, I'd say probably of the whole time out there, you're probably about 30% is actual sand dune. So obviously you're running in gaiters to stop sand getting your shoes. So that is a very surreal experience.
Yeah, I bet. And just to tap more into that mental state then, I guess a lot of people listening to this might think, I can't run 10K without sort of feeling the pain every single step. Yeah. Is there a way to give advice and tips on how to get into flow state? Like how do you do that?
God, if I knew, I'd be a millionaire. No, I think flow state is it's very hard to, I guess, plan getting into. In my personal experience, it's a combination of uninterrupted running, really regulated breathing. I have to be honest, probably a bit caffeinated. If you're the sort of blood's pumping, or the endorphins are pumping. And then for me as well, it's more often than not on a summer's day or in heat. I rarely get into a flow state when it's freezing outside, but I think it's just that uninterrupted moment is when I really click into it. But just going back to the point as well about ending up on the MDS start line. If you told me after my first marathon I'd be on the MDS start line, I'd say you're crazy. And I think that's what running has really unlocked for me and proved to me. And I've been able to take it into other aspects of my life, mainly business, whereby what seems impossible is possible. And I just encourage everyone I meet to just give it a go. And running has been such a great ingredient for just benefits and perceived, I guess, success, horrible word, but happiness in other aspects of my life. It's shown me what's possible.
Let's move to Dragons Back then. Tell us a bit about the race. Tell us about what made you want to say yes to it.
Yeah.
And also tell us about the charities you're raising for.
So I'm fundraising for Dallaglio Rugby Works and Greenhouse Sports, so two charities that are very close to my heart. I've done lots of fundraising for them over the years. Greenhouse Sports provides after-school PE coaches to schools that don't have access to PE, which in London at the moment is around 8,000 children they provide PE access to, which is incredible. So it costs about £25,000 to get a full-time PE coach into a school. So that's always the bare minimum to raise Greenhouse, is to get one coach into a school for a year. So Greenhouse, brilliant charity. And then Dallaglio Rugby Works was founded by Lawrence Dallaglio, who's a good friend of mine. And again, brilliant charity that provides sport, mainly rugby, for children that have been excluded from mainstream education. And there's some really alarming statistics around, I think it's around 70% now of children that get expelled from school end up in the prison system, which is alarming because what children can now be expelled or excluded from school for today. 20 years ago when I was at school, you'd probably get a ruler slapped on your wrist. It's unbelievable. So I was reading an article the other day that you have a lot of children that are now expelled from schools for attendance records. But the sad thing is, these are children that are not attending because they're getting bullied. So you're getting the victims of bullies being too scared to go to school. The victims then get expelled, and then the victims then get put in this bracket of being expelled. They can't get into other schools. They then get typecast by society, and then they become part of the statistic that enters the prison system, which is unbelievable. Awful. So I'm super passionate about that, and I'm trying to raise £50,000 at Dragons Back this year. Dragons Back, it's a stage race from Conway Castle in the north of Wales to finish in the Cardiff Castle in the south of Wales. It's over 6 days. It's about 400 kilometres. It's 17,500 metres of climbing. It's a self-sufficient self-navigation race. The only thing they provide is your evening meal, and a tent. So everything else you carry yourself. It's going to be challenging. I have to be brutally honest. One of the main reasons I chose it is that I've, in adult life, had vertigo. So I've had a real problem with height, and this is going to really challenge me because there is some grade 2 and 3 scrambling involved. On day one, you got the Cribgoch climb of Snowdon, which, for those that don't know, is the hardest climb of Snowdon, which is basically done on all fours. So my heart's beating even thinking about that. I'm terrified, but that's why I'm doing it, because there are races out there that I'm pretty sure I could tick off if they were hilly or flat. But this for me is, I'm terrified of day one. So that is quite exciting for me. I'm going up there in April for my first recce of Cribgoch. I plan to go up 3 or 4 times. And so it's going to be incredibly challenging. As a race, it has a very high failure rate because the cut-off times are quite aggressive each day. You're running basically up and down mountains every day. So it's going to be cool.
It's incredible.
I'm pretty
pumped. Incredible, Simon. And firstly, amazing charity causes, which I bet a lot of Veloforte people would like to get behind as well. So we'll support you with that. And,
thank you.
I'm glad you said about being terrified, because I was about to ask you the question of, do you get scared? But because based on your past, it sounds like you don't get scared, but actually that that makes it even more of a feat to do this race when there's such elevation involved and things that you're personally scared of as well.
But that's why I'm doing it, and I think that I wouldn't say I was getting comfortable doing ultras, but if I'm honest, I've turned up at the last few ultras I've done, and I know I'm going to finish them, which I know I'm going to finish them because I've done the preparation, but I felt like I needed to introduce a bit more jeopardy and actually really be honest with myself and challenge myself. And actually something in life that's going to be quite useful is to overcome my fear of heights, because it's only something that really came on in adult life, which is quite strange. But I've had some hypnotherapy. I've been reading books about it, and so yeah, bring on day one crib gok. I mean, I'm yeah, it's gonna the way I feel at the moment is gonna be awful. And I was showing a mate at the weekend the crib gok ridge, and he was just shaking his head, and he hasn't even got vertigo, and he said he won't do it. So I'm in a dark way, just can't wait to be up there on day one and just be like, do you dare drop out this race on day one?
Yeah.
Like, do you dare? And I know I won't.
It sounds like your planning and training will put you in a good stead ready
Yeah.
for it. But let's take a bit of a detour now, because we learn an incredible amount from people talking about their nutrition life and how they fuel this training, how they fuel their races. So I guess, tell us about nutrition for you. What does that mean? What does your daily life look like? How do you fuel yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it is ever evolving. I'm ever learning. I think that my average training week will have 4 runs in it, of which 2, usually on a Tuesday and Thursday, will be 12 to 14 miles, and they'll be fueled on a Veloforte bar. So I'll wake up, black coffee, Veloforte bar, and take 1 gel with me. That they will be that's fine. My longer run, usually on a Sunday, is between 23 and 26 miles, of which I'll have probably something a bit more substantial for breakfast, like oats. I'll take 2 bars and 2 gels with me, and that's fine. That fuels me for that. In between non-running days, I do have fasting mornings, so I tend to try and do a 6 p.m. to midday fast. But the night before my runs, I'll always ensure that there is a form of carbohydrate on the plate. So going back to what I was saying earlier, I'm no longer about just massive bowls of pasta. You know, I can have a handful of pasta, meat and veg, and that gets me through. So I'm quite, I've gone from, I mean, in adult life, I've probably lost 3 stone as well. And that, I guess, is a combination of more running, but also less gorging on white carbohydrates that society tells us should be fueling us.
Yeah. And how about things like hydration and carbs per hour and the sort of very specific metrics that go into fueling these runs?
Do you know?
Do you think about that at all?
No, not at all. I'm really by feel, and that again, it's. I think I'm quite rare in that regard. I've got to know my body quite well, and I think through trial and error. The one thing that's great, obviously, when you're doing ultra trail races, is that you've got a bag and you can fill your bag with goodies, and that gives you the security that you can always sort of adapt your strategy on the go. Obviously, with road racing, when you're trying to get a time, the term bonking is regularly heard because people obviously regularly get their race strategy wrong. But I could very much go on feel. I'm not into grams and of carbs and even proteins, to be honest, before or after races. I know I can work out in my head what I need. I've got a race coming up, funny enough, in Tuscany in March, which obviously is arguably the home of Veloforte.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
which is quite mad. So I'm out there doing the Ultra Trail Chianti, which is a UTMB race. And that's going to be really interesting because it's a 100k race, taking 25 castles in the Chianti region. Now, I already know that what I'm going to be fueling on that race. And again, it's amazing, isn't it, that I guess the history of Veloforte and the Panaforte fueling the Roman armies hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It has its roots in Tuscany, and I'll be taking Veloforte there with me. But I know for a 100k race will be big evening meal, big breakfast. I mean, I have to say the race starts at 4 a.m, which is pretty mad, but a big breakfast, and then I'll be able to get through that on probably 6 bars, probably 12 gels. I will have some rehydration tablets as well, some salt tablets, but yeah, I can already see, I know what my body needs for that sort of race.
And what about Veloforte? And we talked about the Panforte recipe. That's very much unique to us. We feel that whole food, real ingredients, nothing artificial, nothing synthetic pumped into there, is truly what makes us unique and makes people love us, because not only the taste is there from the nuts and the fruit and the spices, but you can trust what you're putting in your body. So do you think about that? What made you think stick with Veloforte? Because you must have had loads of other brands who you might have tried along the way.
It's so true, and I think the older you get, the more informed your decision making is, right? And the natural ingredients work so well for me. I've never, touch wood, have a problem on a long race. I know a lot of people have tummy issues, usually from gels, and it blows my mind that then people accept tummy issues as part of their racing strategy, that they have to, and I'm just like, just change a gel, just have something that's natural. And actually,
that is very normal though. People do just think, oh, that's just what it is for running.
I know, and I'm just, it's crazy. And so I feel like, okay, I'm lucky to have stumbled across Veloforte probably 4 years ago now, but I love the fact it's natural ingredients. You can taste, I think it's in the blue bar. What's the blue bar called? Forza. You can taste the fennel. You literally taste the fennel. In the Classica, you can taste the honey. I think it's raspberries, berries in that. In the Di Bosco. So actually tasting natural flavours does so much for me. And I think from a calories point of view, going back to a 100k race, I know if I have 6 bars, that's probably close to 2,000 calories. But good calories you can get in your body on a race. And a lot of other people picking up chocolate bars at aid stations and cheese and heavy dairy products. It's hardly surprising they've got stomach issues, right?
It's really interesting because it's the ultra community is the best community for Veloforte to tell the story of what the uniqueness is for us. But it's rare any other brand would be able to say someone's taken 6 bars and 12 of their gels and been fine with that.
Yeah.
And that's because of the naturalness of the product. So, and I think the flavours is a source of motivation in those dark moments as well, actually.
But also as well, I've regularly see my mocha and what's the bigger to see, choco bars going missing because people at home they taste so good that people are having them as snacks. And so I think that's probably how
that is the downside.
No, but that yourself is amazing, isn't it? That I think one is very date based. Is that the choco?
Could be the Avanti as well.
Avanti, of course, yeah. That's very heavily date based, isn't it? That goes missing as well. And I think it's, if people are having your bars as treats when they're natural ingredients, that's only a good thing.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I think we could talk for hours, Simon, but we're probably out of time there. But final thing to tell the audience then, I guess what motivates you in life from a business point of view, from your work? Have you learned any lessons from business as well that motivates your running life? What keeps you ticking?
I just want to be the best version of myself, and I think I've at various stages in my life haven't been that, and been very aware of that. And I feel like the older you get, and when you have children, you do start to realise that a lot of people look up to you. You can be a role model. I think one of the greatest things that just happened to me with running is that I feel like I've inspired a lot of my mates to get into it as well, which was never the plan. And I get nice messages regularly from friends who have taken up running and they've seen what I've done. I've seen them change their life. And I think marrying that with the ability to fundraise as well is just, it's almost quite a selfish thing that I get such a kick from it. But yeah, I think personal growth, personal development, being the best version of myself, turning up every day, and trying to make a difference in the world is kind of what motivates me, really.
Amazing, thank you. And I think that would have motivated and inspired a lot of people listening to this. Certainly makes me want to lace up the shoes and get out there this week. So, and good luck with Dragons Back.
Brilliant.
Best of luck for the charities as well, and
Thank you
raising a
very
lot of money, and we'll share that for you as well.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.